for the session in there's a survey happening in Malabar Wildlife Sanctuary. So I said, okay, why not? So me and my friend actually drove almost 500 kilometers in a bike into a beautiful forest for Malabar Wildlife Sanctuary. So we were there for 2 days, 2 nights. We were looking for frogs different. So that was led by Dr. Anil Zakaria. He's one of the leading amphibian expert team. So that time I still remember these two interesting frogs. The one which we never able to see it. The frog what you see on the top, it's actually called the Oaklandra reed frog. So when we were surveying there, there was a lot of frogs were calling from the bamboo, the reeds. Actually, in Western Ghat, there's a particular type of reeds. They call the Oaklandra reeds. Around 10 to 15 varieties of Oaklandra reeds are there. So we could hear these frogs. So Dr. Anil said, yeah, that's some interesting frog. Can you guys find it? So we searched and searched, but we couldn't find it. Later, a few years later, Dr. Gurraja and team found this frog and described this as a Oaklandra reed frog. And another frog was there, miniature night frog. The Nyctibatrachus minimus. That's the smallest frog in India. So that frog also, I mean, we could hear it was calling right in front of us, from the rock. But we were never able to locate it because half an hour we were flashing our torches, trying to lift small stones or everything, but we were not able to find this frog. So that's where I started my frog interest. Later, we associated with that Dr. Anil. We've done a lot of surveys extensively throughout Western Ghat. So that's whatever I learned. I mean, some bit of stories I'm just going to tell you guys. So it's interesting. I mean, we have a team of naturalists. I mean, led by Dr. Anil Zakaria. He's a veterinary doctor there. I mean, he's not a scientist, but we do science a lot. And we have another person, Ram, another job in Robin Kurian Abraham. He's actually studying in Kansas. And we have a kind of people where we don't get any funding. We just do this out of our passion. We go out in the jungle study. We have proper permission from the forest department to collect specimens. Only those who are very new to science, or if any study is needed, that only we will go and collect it and study it. So we've been fortunate to publish 12 to 14 species, new to sciences, 1 or 2 new genuses. So these are the things we've been doing. So, I mean, in Western Ghat, I mean, we know that it's one of the global hotspots for amphibians. I mean, around 232 species are reported so far from Western Ghat. Out of that, around 84% are endemic to that areas. So there could be many more species are yet to be discovered. I'll just give a small brief. These are the 3 different family of amphibians found in India. One is the Sicilian, then frogs and toads, then newts and salamanders. So in India, we have Sicilians and frogs and toads, and one species of salamander. In a recent study revealed they are actually 2 species. It's a Himalayan newt. A general description: how do you differentiate between frogs and toads? Frogs are wets. They actually got a wet skin, and the frogs are actually a dry and warty skin. If you look carefully, you can actually see a lot of black dots like a wart-like thing, and it's got a dry skin. These are the general thing you can actually make out the difference. And I mean, there is a theory. I mean, it's actually believed that amphibians actually evolved from fish to feet, from fin to foot. Oh, this is the typical life cycle of a frog. I mean, frog lays eggs and it's become a tadpole and eventually become an adult frog. And so what happened in Western Ghat? I mean, mainly today I'm going to talk about a bit of southern Western Ghat where we have more diversity. So probably from south of Agumbe and largely in Kerala regions of the Western Ghat. So how does all these frogs are evolved? I mean, it's all about the evolution of the rainforest. So imagine this tree here, what you're seeing on your screen. It's a large tree in an evergreen forest. So there are frogs which is adapted to live on the top of the canopy. And there are some frogs which actually adapted to live on the bark of the tree. And there are some frogs which is there among the roots and leaf litters. And there are some species on the grassland. So different species are evolved into different ways. So there's an interesting family of frogs. Let's learn about bush frogs. So if you look at this frog, it's actually olive green color with a brownish back. It's actually very well camouflaged with the bark. It's actually called the canopy. It's a kind of canopy bush frog. It's called the Raworcestus neurostegona. It's called the water drop frog. I mean, those who have been in southern Western Ghats, especially I think it's there in Agumbai also. If you walk through the jungle, you'll be hearing this sound. Let me try to play the sound. So this frog, I mean, I heard at least first 10 years, I never able to see this frog. We always hear this frog because this frog actually found on the top of the canopy, which never come down. So also the frogs, when they evolved from the fish to amphibians, there's actually a relation between the water. So they have to go back to the water to breathe. Most of the frogs, 90% of the frogs, they have to go back to the water to breed. But there is exception for all these bush frogs. Because they adapted to the canopy, they actually live on the top of the trees. They have an interesting life history. They have a direct development. So these bush frogs don't have a tadpole stage. So once they lay eggs, they actually hatch inside itself and they come out as an adult frog. I mean, a small frog. So they don't have a tadpole stage. So, like I mentioned, that our sisters, Auckland, what do you see? It's okay. This neurostegona. Okay. This was we discovered a frog a few years back from Agastyamalai Hills. I still remember the day me and my friend Ansi, we went to do a survey in Agastyamalai region. So at night we heard a lot of calls from the trees. So we went out, scanned the trees, but the call was coming from the bark of a tree. Can you see all this moss on the tree bark? There was a frog was calling, which is the sound was exactly like that water drop frog. So we thought, okay, we found another water drop frog. So we had permission to collect, so we collected one male, and we also found one female was hiding in the moss. So we collected that female also. But when we went back and did the proper studies, we realized it's actually a different species of frog. So we named out this as a Raworcestus crustae. Crustae means it's a bark bush frog. This frog is actually adapted to live on the tree bark. So they are not on the canopy, they are not on the ground or on the leaf. They actually lives on the bark of the tree. And there are some other bush frogs also. Most of these bush frogs are actually adapted to stay on the leaves. So they lay eggs on the leaves. So this is a very common frog throughout the plains of Kerala and parts of other Western Ghats also, lowland, up to 500, 600 meters. It's called Raworcestus acropulraki, variable bush frog. It comes in different colors and more. That's why it's called the variable bush frog. And there's another amazing set of frogs. They are called the reed frogs. This was actually first discovered by Dr. Vivek and team. Raworcestus Auckland, right? So what happened, if you look at this picture here, like I mentioned in the beginning, in Western Ghats we have around 10 to 15 varieties of Auckland reeds. They are very thick bamboo-like reeds. So, and there are a lot of natural slits, natural holes on this bamboo, the reeds. So all these frogs, they actually adapted, they actually get inside and breed. So we've seen quite a few times, the males actually, there are studies being done. The males actually guard the eggs inside. So imagine without, I mean, we also seen a time, one of our team member had seen this, people used to collect this reed for paper mills and all. So we saw a big lorry of reeds were going through the city, Trivandrum city. Suddenly it started raining. So then all the frogs started calling from the reeds without realizing actually it's already being cut, they've been taken into a paper mill. So It's a very unique frog to Western Ghats. So there's quite a few reed bush frogs. They like Raworchestus thalassodus,
Hello,
Raworchestus manohari.
hello.
Yes.
There are people saying your voice is not clear or some type of echo is coming. So can you just check that?
You may try using a headset.
Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there is quite a few bush reed frogs, manohari. Uh, okay, there are other frogs which is adapted. These are the frogs what we already learned about the reed bush frogs, which is they are adapted to the reeds. But there are some frogs which adapted to the high altitude of grasslands, especially the special charged bush frog, Raworchestus charis and Nilgiri bush frogs. You don't find these frogs in the evergreen forest or any other kind of areas. This is exclusively found on all this uh, high altitude grasslands. There are other two interesting frogs, which is again found in the high altitude peaks. The first one to your left is the resplendent bush frog, which is found on the top of the Munnar Hills, which is is it is it can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So this Raworchestus resplendens actually found in the top of Munnar Hills, and they are adapted to on the top of to live on the top of the mountains. Especially you can see on the belly and all, they got a lot of micro glands where they can survive the cold and heavy wind there. And to the right, what you see, it's actually a very interesting frog which found only on the top of Kudramukh Peak, which Raworchestus montanus. I think this frog is probably the rarest frog in Western Ghats, and also it's probably the first frog is going to extinct from Western Ghats. This is probably less than 500 left in the wild. It's only found on the top of the Kudramukh Peak under some rocks there. We haven't found any other places there. So these are, and some of the studies reveal because of the global warming, the temperature is increasing. If it's increased 1 or 2 degrees, the frogs are going to go. And also the resplendent bush frog, what we notice, they're actually climbing to the top of the trees. There are a lot of bush frogs found across in Western Ghats, around 52 species being so far reported. This is one of my because this is named after my sir, Dr. Anil Sakaria. It's interesting. It's a very common frog in Wayanad and other regions. I heard his wife is literally complaining. This frog actually calls at night, and Dr. Anil will be talking whole day in his house. And so the daytime he has to listen. She has to listen to Dr. Anil, and at night these frogs will be calling throughout the night. So okay, there is another interesting frog. This is one of the globally threatened species of bush frog, which is found in Nelliyambuthi regions. It's called the Kaigati bush frog, and nothing much known about this frog. I mean, we got to see it once or twice. It's considered as one of the globally threatened species. And okay, few years back we done a survey in Silent Valley National Park. It is one of the primary pristine evergreen forests left in India. So this is when we done the survey, we found two frogs, which is one we named after the Silent Valley National Park. The other one is the Lechia, which is a tribal watcher. He actually took all the scientists and other people to show the place entire, and he helped a lot of researchers also. So in the late 70s and 80s, there was a movement in Kerala. People actually, all the people, the local people, go down in the street. The government want to build a dam in the middle of Silent Valley National Park. There was a river there, Kundi River, Kundipura. So they want to build a big dam. So, and all the people started protesting. That is probably one of the first protests in India, which all the people came out. I mean, all the local people and students from the college and schools, everyone out in the streets. Finally, they had to stop the building the dam. So I think because of that, these two frogs actually got survived. I mean, otherwise, if the dam would have been there, this species wouldn't have existed. And we have another interesting species of frogs. These are pseudophylatus, the false bush frogs. Very difficult to distinguish from the actual bush frogs. But one tip is if you look at the just behind the eyes, there's a large tympanum. So the bush frogs don't have a large tympanum compared to the raw orchestras, the bush frogs. So these are the false bush frogs. And we also have some other amazing species of gliding frog. That's 4 species of gliding frogs found in Western Ghat. The most common one is the Malabar gliding frog, which is found throughout Western Ghat. And usually it's not found high altitude, but till mid elevation, 700, 800, 900 meters, you will see this the first one, which actually got the legs are reddish in color. But to the right, what you see, the false gliding frog, which actually restricted to the southern Western Ghat, like south of Palghat Gap, where if you go to Munnar region or in Agasthyamala region and all, you might be able to see this false gliding frog. Then other two, the winged gliding frog, which is restricted, it's got a very restricted region. It's probably in Wayanad and Kur, that area. It's nowhere else it's found. And compared to all other 3 gliding frogs, this winged gliding frog is very small. It's tiny. When you see it, you really know, is it really a gliding frog? Some of the bush frogs are bigger than this winged gliding frog. The other one, the Kalakad gliding frog, it's again found only in the south of Palghat Gap. Probably easy place to see Munnar and Agasthyamala region and all. This is usually found in the high altitudes of Western Ghats. We also have tree frogs. There are 2 species of tree frog, Polypteris eurocrucifer and Polypteris maculatus. There people believe that there is one more species, Polypteris occidentalis, which found in Trivandrum areas. That's what they describe. Some of our studies reveal it's actually the same species, Polypteris eurocrucifer and Polypteris occidentalis is the same species. This is the frog which actually you may see them. It's entering your houses, even it's in the cities and all. It comes into your houses, or especially they prefer in winter. They come into the bathrooms and all. The common tree frog, the Polypteris maculatus. We also have some high altitude tree frogs. They are called the genus Gattisalis. So these are the most common ones. The Gattisalis astrops, which found in the south of Palghat Gap, in Munnar and all those places. And another one, Gattisalis variabilis, it's found in north of Palghat Gap, where in Nilgiri region and Wayanad and all these species you can find. And recently we stumbled upon a large Gattisalis, which this is the largest racophorid frog in Western Ghat. And we didn't know there was a frog exists like that. When we were doing a survey, our team found out there's actually a large frog sitting next to a stream. When we studied and done the DNA and all, then we realized it's actually a different species. So it has been described as Gattisalis magnus. And you can actually see the tadpole size difference. We have another very interesting ecosystem, forest ecosystem. It's called the Meristica swamps. So there is a sect of trees called nutmeg trees, which is adapted to live in this marshy climate, especially in southern Kerala and parts of. It's there in northern Kerala also. This and I think parts of Karnataka also Meristica swamps are there. It's a very important ecosystem. And we done some interesting studies there. And we got to see a very interesting frog. So it's a Meristica swamp frog, a Mercurana Meristica palastrix, and this is a male and this is the female. Female is probably one of the most beautiful frog found in Western Ghat. Look at that; it's actually greenish color. It's called black dots on the belly. yellowish patch, and eyes are like some emerald green colors. It's very interesting. And okay, so few years back, I mean, we wanted to study their the breeding behavior. So we were out there. So I still remember that day. It's actually this frog breeds in pre-monsoon time. I mean, it must have bred now because it's been raining heavily in Kerala. So in pre-monsoon time, what happens is Myristica swarm. In summer, it will be dry. There won't be any water in those kind of area. So all those, imagine a evergreen forest where it's dry forest where there's no water. There could be some streams in between. But these frogs, the moment it started getting pre-monsoon, like from mid-May onwards, we'll get a good rain. So when it started raining, all these frogs will come out. I mean, literally hundreds of them. I think I've seen around a few hundred, 200, 300 frogs calling around me. And males are brown in color. The female is green. If you look at the picture, the females actually got a very pointed and longer snout. So what happens once they mate, they go underground and they dig the ground and lay eggs. So that's why the female has got a very pointed snout. And this is what it happens. I mean, she actually, the topmost picture, what you see here, that is she actually mixed the eggs with the mud and she disappears from there. So we had some permission to study. So then we found out this eggs actually waiting for the water. I mean, for the proper rain. So till imagine the mid May onwards, it started raining. So all the frogs will come out. They make lay eggs in the ground. So that will be almost a bit of moisture in the air and in the ground also. So they lay eggs there. They mix it with it. Then the female and male disappears from there. So after a few days, the actual monsoon will start from June onwards. And these frogs, all the tadpoles will, the eggs will hatch and the tadpoles will come out. And that's where they survive. But there is we got some sad news also because past few weeks it's been raining continuously in southern Western Ghats. I mean, whatever they laid eggs, it must have washed out. So this is actually a major threat, I think, for this frog. And this is another frog we found it. It's Bedomyzalus bgb, which found in foothills of Munnar region. First, when we saw it, we thought it's a tree frog or something. When later the genetic studies realized that it's actually a different genus. It's actually a monotypic genus. No other frogs are found in this genus. And the females are massive. The picture what you see below, it's a massive female, almost twice or thrice the size of the male. So this frog also breeds in pre-monsoon time, especially in the stagnant pools and all. They'll come hundreds of them congregate around the pools, and they lay eggs on the leaves and all. Eventually, once it starts raining, the eggs will hatch and get into the water and eventually become a tadpole. Okay, I'm just going to play a sound. Can anyone recognize this sound?
Mhm.
Is it playing the sound?
Unable to hear the
No,
voice.
it's not playing.
I think it's not. Okay, something saying code cannot available. Okay, that's okay. So I want to point out this is actually a video of an amazing frog which found in Western Ghats. That's the purple frog. So we just got the news that they actually finished the breeding in southern Western Ghats. It's once they discovered this frog, this was like a new family of frogs. I mean, recently they discovered one more species, Nasicapatrachus bhupati also. This is again a very unique frog to Western Ghats. So this frog also it comes out in pre-monsoon time. and they breed. So imagine if you go to any Western Ghat place where there are a lot of waterfalls there and a lot of streams. So all this next to the waterfalls, usually these frogs will come out, or there are running streams. So the hundreds and thousands of them will come out. They burrow over, they go underground. Pre-monsoon time they'll come, hundreds and thousands of them. They'll come and breed all this. Can you see that the picture behind? All those kind of habitat they need. So small waterfalls or running streams along those rocky outcrop. So they'll come and breed, and so the tadpoles actually stick into the water, and that's why they survive. And after that, after breeding, they disappears. So the closest relative of this frog actually lives in seashells, and it's believed to evolve around 135 million years ago. So our team actually described the entire life history of this frog a few years back. And it's interesting, when we are doing the study, we realize the local people actually know this frog for hundreds of years. They've been catching and eating. And interestingly, most of the frogs, or probably you can say 99% frog, only the male actually make the call, the sound. The female don't make a sound. But interestingly, this Nasica batrachus, the purple frog, which the female also make the call. And yeah. We'll move to the next family of frog. These are the night frog, the Nyctibatrachus, again found in the Western Ghats. And two species, the mewing night frog or Nyctibatrachus pucha and Wayanad night frog. The mewing night frog, Nyctibatrachus pucha, actually got a very unique sound. The sounds like a house cat. It sounds like meow meow, something like that. It's calls like that. That's why the name they named it. And the Wayanad night frog, the Nyctibatrachus grandis, which when it's called, it sounds like a woodpecker pecking on the tree. And this is Nyctibatrachus grandis, Wayanad night frog, which is guarding the male. So most of these frogs, when they lay eggs, males are known to guard its eggs. So my sir tried to catch this frog, it's went and bit it. So they fiercely guard its eggs. And this is one of that frog in the family, Nyctibatrachus minibus, miniature night frog, which found in discovered from Kurichir, Malay, Wayanad region. It's also reported in some other places, and it's very difficult to see this frog in the field. I mean, most of the people who knows about frogs also, unless you know the call, you think it's a cricket sound. It sounds exactly like a cricket. It doesn't sound like a frog. So this frog will be calling among the wet rocks or in the wet leaf litters. So I still remember we have to carefully remove one by one leaf, then we have to catch it. And very difficult to see it also. And recently, Dr. Gururaj and team discovered this amazing behavior of this frog, Kumbara night frog. This frog, once they lay eggs, they actually plaster their eggs with the mud to prevent from any kind of predator or any. So it's amazing, no? How they do all this. Look at that. We have another amazing frogs, I mean family of frogs. They are called the torrent frogs, Micrysales. So these are the frogs which found in fast-flowing streams in Western Ghats. So they are unique to most of the streams, and very narrow distribution. All these frogs are in Western Ghats. Quite a lot of species are there. I'm sure there are many more species yet to be discovered. There are a few Micrysales thumpy, which is found in Silent Valley. There's another family of frogs. They are called the burrowing frogs, Chiropithecus. These frogs actually come out after the heavy rains. In the monsoon time also, the first one or two rains, you may not able to see these burrowing frogs. They come out only after heavy rain, and they got a very round snout. Another interesting family of frogs, they are Microhylas or the narrowmouth frog. This is a red narrowmouth frog, and this is ornate narrowmouth frog, and this is Sholigari narrowmouth frog. So these are frogs all found in southern Western Ghats. Also, especially this Sholigari narrowmouth frog, it's very difficult to locate it. I mean, if you similar like our miniature night frog, I mean, you may not realize it's actually a frog calling, and it's very tiny. And another interesting, this is actually Shashank Dalgi's photo, Mangaluru narrowmouth frog. Few years back, some researchers described this frog. So when they done the DNA, they realized this frog actually don't belong to India. I mean, the clade, it's actually more closer to a Southeast Asian species. So, I mean, so probably where they found this frog, there was some timber depot was there. Probably when they're many hundreds of years back when they uh, got the timber from Southeast Asia, this frog also transported with the timber. They came here and colonized. So, and they were not able to locate it in so many years. So when they done the studies, they realized it's actually a species which the claim is actually related to the Southeast Asian species. This is a photo by Dr. K.P. Dinesh. It's again recently discovered a subfamily of frog. It's called Astrobatrachus genus, and it's found only in one area in Kurshilmala of Wayanad region. Nobody knows how this frog is and where do they seen? Is it a burrower? Is it a nobody knows. I mean, it's an interesting frog to find out the breeding behavior. And another family of frogs, Euperodons. And okay, so these Euperodons actually mainly known to breed in stagnant water pools, also the tree holes. There's quite a few species in Western Ghats. This is one of the rare one, Euperodon montana, which is mainly found in southern Western Ghats. And there is another family, another genus of frogs recently been described. It's called Mysticellus franki. This frog is probably the rarest frog in Western Ghats, I would say, because of the breeding behavior. So this frog actually come out only once a day in a year. Imagine, I think it's already done its breeding. So they come out. It's very similar to our what do you say, the microhyla, the narrow-mouth frog. They'll come out in a day. They breed. Actually, they climb out the small bushes and trees and all, and they call there, and they breed that night itself. Then they disappear. If you go there next day, you will not able to see this frog. So it's amazing how all these frogs are this. They just come out only a few days or a day to breed, like a Nasica batrachus, and they just disappears. It's an amazing find. Again, another fantastic frog. It's called a black microhyla, Melobatrachus indicus, which again found in Western Ghats, especially largely in southern Western Ghats. This is look at the color. It's black color with the tiny white dots all around the body, and also orange color on the belly and hands and all. Another very interesting fact of this frog: most of the frogs, they all have a vocal sac and the tympanum. So the vocal sac, most of the male the frogs actually have the vocal sac. So they call out for the females. They make these loud sounds. That's where in monsoon time you hear all these bullfrogs and all those frogs will call. That's where they attract the female. And they have a tympanum also. That's where they can hear. Interestingly, this black microhyla Melobatrachus indicus, they don't have a tympanum and a vocal sac also. So nobody knows how do this frog breed. So this will be an interesting find to how this frog is breeding or not. I think Shashank wants it's called it's a starry night frog. This is okay. Another family of frog, Indrana and Salivocrana. Okay, I'll quickly show you the difference. How to differentiate this from look at this Minervarias. Okay, so and let me go back to the Indranas. So we have quite a few species of Indranas in Western Ghats. So two things you have to look into it. One is they have a large tympanum, and on their hands they have a very prominent disc. Can you see my cursor?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this disc is very prominent for all the series for Indranas series, and it's got a large tympanum, almost the size of the eyes. Okay, let me go to Minervarias or the cricket frog. So they got a small, very tiny tympanum, and they don't have a disc on the. So these are the easy way you can differentiate between Minervarias and Indranas. So the photo I put it up in Indrana and Salivocrana, the Salivocrana phinoderma, which is again a globally threatened species. It's found in Anomaly regions of Western Ghats, and okay, and also they are known to the tadpoles are known to stick to outside water. They don't need to have water to breathe, they need some sticky surface or some bit of wet moisture on the rock and all, so they will survive there. And these frogs also known to lay eggs there. And Minivarias, I mean, this is the most widely distributed frogs in Western Ghats. It's there all over India. I mean, people are afraid to study these frogs, I think, because of its difficulty to identify. I mean, most of the frogs look alike, unless they don't have major characters also to distinguish from other species itself. So they have a lot of warts and tubercles and all. We have quite a lot of species. I'm sure if someone studies, there will be probably 10, 15 species will be there in this family of frog, all these Minervarias. And also there have been a lot of changes, Minervarias, Fagervarias, Zacaranas, lot of genus being changed. Now it's come to a stage, it's Minervaria now. And it's largely found in paddy fields. You can see them in the next to the rivers, marshy lands. It's widely distributed. This is another most common frog found throughout India. It's found in Western Ghats also. It's called Indian skittering frog. You can actually see the hind leg actually got a web feet, so they can float on the water. This frog also known to breed throughout the year. I mean, also whenever it's raining, they breed. And another skittering frog. This is Caravelli skittering frog. Look at the size of the female. It's look like a bullfrog. And this one actually known to the calls like those who know the birds. White-throated kingfisher. It sounds exactly like that. So I remember this is a photograph from Trivandrum when you're doing a survey. So I heard this frog. I thought it's like a common skittering frog. So, but suddenly the male called. I said, yeah, the sound is very different. So when I took the photograph, later I saw it's mating with another large female. Then my friend called him up and said, hey, I heard they were describing a frog, and he said, yeah, this is the one. So this is.
Frogging
Okay, sorry. That is nice to hear some other sound also. Okay, this is the Caravelli skittering frog. It's widely distributed. It's found in. Okay. It's also found in throughout in Western Ghats. It's also found in. I think it's actually a more a lowland species in Western Ghats. Okay, this is another most common frog. I mean, I'm sure those who look into frogs, most of you have seen this frog. This is Indian bullfrog or the Hoplopetrachus tigrinus. This is probably the first frog is going to extinct from India. Okay, so this frog actually got a very unique breeding behavior. This frog breed only once a year. That too, they breed pre-monsoon. So imagine now they'll be breeding if there is a heavy rain around your place, especially in Western Ghats, Southern Western Ghats, a lot of rain. They'll come out, hundreds of them congregate into a particular area, any paddy fields or wherever the stagnant pools. All these frogs started laying eggs there, and they breed. Imagine those kind of paddy fields, the picture there. So sometimes we see up to 50, 100, 200, 500 frogs. They all congregate there, they breed there. So imagine what happens because of the global warming, the weather pattern already changed. So we started getting the pre-monsoon from the first week of May itself. We get heavy showers. All these frogs actually think, okay, the pre-monsoon or the monsoon is arrived. They congregate, hundreds of them will come there and they breed. And after a week or two, there's no rain. So all the eggs and tadpoles will be there, dried out, and all these frogs will, they won't breed after that. So that's one of the reason maybe this frog is going to extinct from India. So, and also all these people, it's actually a lot of meat. So people actually go and catch these frogs. I think it's called the French chicken or something. So they'll go and catch this frog and eat the legs. They fry it and eat. So these are the two reasons. Because of this frog is going to extinct. Again, we have a golden back frogs, quite a few species. I don't know how to differentiate over the three. This one is Indosibrana auranteca. It's from Trivandrum. It's from the type locality. That's why we can able to identify. Otherwise, most of this family of frog, it's very difficult to differentiate. Then we have another family of frog. they are called hydrophylax. Another genus of frog, hydrophylax. These are again under monsoon time. All these frogs, coniferate, hundreds of them. They actually are associated to the laterite areas also. And we have another species in central India and northern Western Ghat, hydrophylax Bahu Vistar, widespread fungoid frog. So, but this hydrophylax malabarica is restricted to the northern Kerala or northern Western, southern Western Ghat. Again, another a common frog in the Western Ghat. This is actually mainly if you see them in the evergreen forest. If you walk through the evergreen forest after the monsoon and all, you'll see a lot of them in the forest. Also, they are known to breed, lay a lot of thousands of eggs, and the tadpoles, sometimes when they hatch out, thousands of froglets will come out. You'll see, especially near any dam and all, hundreds and thousands of froglets and young frogs will be seen. Okay, this is the most common frog found throughout India. It's Rotophragmus melanostrictus, or a common Indian toad or common Asian toad. One of the easy way to identify is they have a black line. See, okay, on the top of the head. So let me compare it with another frog, then you are able to identify. This is the Rotophragmus paritalis. Okay, so if you look at my cursor here, so if it's a this two lines, can you see these two lines here? This is only for paritalis, that is the forest toad, and for common Indian toad, you don't see this line here. So only the top black line will be there. And so that's the way you can identify this Rotophragmus paritalis, or the forest toad, found only in the Western Ghat evergreen forest and all. And it's got a very unique breeding behavior. So most of the frogs, we've been discussing about, all those frogs will breed in either in pre-monsoon time or after the rain, good monsoon time. All those frogs breed. Some frogs, all the gliding frogs, whenever it started raining, they known to breed. Or the skittering frog, they known to breed throughout the year. But this frog, it's actually known to breed only in winter. So this frog, imagine in Western Ghat, especially this frog actually found in the high altitude, like 600, 700, 800 meters, that range. So we can just take an example of Wayanad. Wayanad region, this frog is common there. In the forest in Wayanad, in December, January and all, it will be very cold. And those time, the forest streams will have a lot of mist. So from the mist, there will be a kind of drizzle will be falling into these streams. So that's a habitat they need to breed. So that's the time these frogs actually breed. They don't breed in monsoon time. They don't breed in pre-monsoon. So in winter time, those frogs will be breeding. Interestingly, we've been monitoring these frogs for 5-6 years, or more than 10 years. But the past few years, there's no proper winter in southern Western Ghat, and there's no mist and no drizzle from the mist. So these frogs are actually stopped breeding. They stop breeding because they don't have that habitat to breed. Another interesting frog found in Western Ghat, that is the torrent toads. These frogs actually found in fast-flowing running streams. Again, you'll find them largely in after the pre-monsoon time and monsoon time. And another interesting frog is the Malabar tree toad, Pidostypes tuberculosis. And they actually known to climb the trees and call from there, and they breed. I think Dr. Gururaja and team was trying to monitor their entire distribution and behavior and all. I almost come to my end of my sessions. There are a few problems what's happening in the frog world. That's in breeding sites. We use a lot of pesticides, and also we use a lot of small checkdowns. So imagine a forest like Western Ghat. There are a lot of streams there, a perennial small stream where a lot of frogs are adapted, especially frogs like the Nyctibatrachus and Microhylas, Micryzalis, especially the Micryzalis. The picture on the top, it's a Micryzalis gadgili. So these kind of frogs are actually adapted to this kind of frog, the streams. So the people actually, or the forest people also sometimes think, it's nice to have a check dam to keep the water throughout the year. So the moment you start make a small check dam, it's going to affect their entire lifestyle. I mean, the frogs will stop breeding. So probably the entire population also will be wiped out. So each measures what you take in the forest, it should be careful. Otherwise, entire, I mean, these frogs probably maybe one or two streams they restricted. So the entire population can be wiped out. Habitat destruction and a lot of tree frogs in Western Ghats. This is again a major problem, conversion of rainforest and plantation. And we've seen it, I mean, some of the endangered frogs actually found in cities, which was actually a forest before. When people started encroaching the forest, eventually it became a plantation. So some frogs are actually found only in some plantations and all. And the conversion of grasslands to plantation is endangering many species. This is a major problem. So I think I mentioned two frogs. One is the Raworcester charius, Seshacharis bushrock, and Teniensis bushrock. So those Nilgiri bushrock. So those two frogs actually exclusively found in grasslands, high altitude grasslands. So the moment you, if you have some ideas, okay, let's make this grassland. I mean, when you see our Western Ghats grassland, some high altitude Shola grasslands and all, if you start planting trees there and if you want to bring it back to a kind of a forest, evergreen forest, it's going to affect a lot of species. I think, okay, forest fires destroy a lot of habitat. And okay, so this is actually a major problem. Pesticides. I don't know if you guys know, if you go to any places like in Wayanad or Munnar or Tekdi or Coorg, all those places, there are a lot of coffee and tea plantations. So coffee and tea actually are excellent habitat for frogs, a lot of frogs. So wherever you hear a lot of frogs at night, that tea and coffee is actually not sprayed by the pesticides. So, I mean, frogs are known to breathe through the skin. So the moment you start pumping any kind of pesticide, entire population will be wiped out from there. So this is actually a major problem. I think this is the most problem they are facing, most of the frogs. So many frogs are disappearing from the globe since the last few decades. Probably past 30 years, a lot of around 30 or 40% of amphibians being wiped out. I mean, we know that we are all locked up in our houses because of one COVID-19 or coronavirus. I mean, we've been predicting this for a few years back because frogs are one of the first thing which evolved from the fish to land. They evolved around 300 million years ago. They came out into the land. They start colonizing. So after that, around 5 extinction happened. I mean, 5 major extinction. The major one happened 62 million years ago, where all the dinosaurs got wiped out. Almost 90% of fauna being wiped out. What you see, the animals all evolved after that. But interestingly, most of the amphibian lineage survived. I mean, because they could go underground, some burrowing or under the logs or so all these frogs are survived. But what happened past 30 years, because there is a fungus called chytrid fungus which been affecting all these frogs, and they are dying. It's actually, they believe that there was a chytrid fungus on one of the frog in Africa. It's called the midwife toad, which used to use for the pregnancy test. So that frog is being exported to all over the world. So that frog eventually went to some other countries like South America or some US or Australia and all. So it was a good climate that fungus to be spread. So it spread to all other species, the native species, and eventually they all wiped out the entire thing. So the same thing actually, what the frogs are telling us, guys, we used to live, we used to survive all the extinction, they used to survive all the ice ages. I mean, they survive all the greatest extinction where all the dinosaurs also wiped out, but the frogs lineage survived. But now they can't live, they can't survive because of this fungus, because we are created. I mean, 20, 30 years back, there was a talk like, we are supposed to face a ice age. And, but we started using all the fossil fuels. I mean, now we created the global warming. So now there is no going back. Actually, the frogs are the first one to told us, I mean, guys, turn back. Otherwise, all this population, entire population is going to go. So I think this is the time we have to think about all the animals, even the frogs. I think frogs are the greatest indicators of the environment. So they are dying around. Imagine 40% of frogs are already going. So which is, and I think. Thank you so much. I hope you all learned a bit of. I hope we introduced a bit of frogs also. If you all have any questions, you can.
Unmuted.
Yeah, if
if
anyone
you-
has any question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question. David, I request you, there are a few questions in the chat box. If you can read them, otherwise I'll read for you.
Let me find out where is the chat box.
It's in the right top corner.
Muted.
Okay. Okay, there's a Dr. Gururaja was also there, so probably he can also chip in with some answers. Sorry, guys, my voice was. Okay, there's a question from Shikha Mathur. How differentiate male and female stomaticus? See, usually, first of all, it's differentiate from the common Indian toad. There's no prominent that they have a large poison gland, parotid gland they have, and female. It's I think it's the way the size. Size is one of the main character. Females are always larger, and otherwise it's difficult. I don't know. Maybe look for the vocal sac. The male has a prominent vocal sac. The female don't have a vocal sac. How did Bangalore narrowmouth reach India all from Sora? Sora still we don't know that story. So there is a theory goes like that. There was a timber depot was there in Bangalore. So probably many years back, people used to transport timber from Southeast Asia to here in Bangalore. So some of the frogs, probably 2-3 frogs were got inside a tree hole or something. And they brought the timber here, and it's got escaped from there and started colonizing there. Okay. So now all frogs under Minervarius. So yes, according to the new studies, it's all Minervarius. Okay, it's called jumping chicken. Yeah, the bullfrog's legs are called the jumping chicken. Can you throw some light on breeding behavior of pseudophilatelis? Okay, most of the raw orchids is actually known to breed on the bushes and trees or leaves and all. But pseudophilatelis, what we notice, they actually go into the ground and lives on the base of the tree or in the leaf litter. That is one thing we have noticed. Can you name a few poisonous frog species that found in Western Ghat from Saurav Javekar? Saurav, there is no poisonous frog species in India also. There is no one. But if you want to say, there are quite a lot of toads found in Western Ghats. They got a parotid gland, which they have a kind of poison gland. If a small dog or some other birds or they eat that toad, it will die. So otherwise, like in South America and all, we don't have any proper poisonous frog. From Rohan, can you explain why bullfrogs are prone to extinction? I quite didn't get the reason. How early pre-monsoon showers leading? Okay, let me explain why the bullfrog. Okay, bullfrogs. The few things to remember: bullfrogs actually they breed only once a year. They breed in pre-monsoon. That is now the May, mid-May onwards they'll breed. So when they start breeding, they congregate. Suppose if there is a frog in a, imagine if there is a 1,000-acre paddy field. So probably 300, 400, 500 frogs are there. They all congregate into a particular area and start breeding there. So in pre-monsoon, so when they start breeding there, all these frogs will start laying eggs. Sometimes there will be shallow puddles also. They think the monsoon is arrived. They lay eggs there. So after a few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, there won't be any rain. So all those eggs and tadpoles will dries out and they won't breed after that. So if this cycle continues a few more years, if the weather pattern changes, I mean, entire population can be wiped out. So that's what it's prone to extinction. How to know genus in frogs? Akesh Hemant. I mean, different family, actually different frogs. It's difficult to explain. Again, one more question. How many poisonous frogs in Western Ghats? There's no poisonous frogs. Okay, Ashwati Shetty, you said Dataphrynus paritalis breed during winter. Don't they hibernate during winter? No, they don't hibernate in it. So interestingly, winter, Ashwat Shetty. Yeah, so in winter in Western Ghats, it's not severe like in Central India or in Himalayan foothills. In winter, like in Western Ghats, it's mild. It's probably 5 degrees, 10 degrees, and all. They come out and breed that time. It's not like icy cold water. So they do breed in that kind of. Clara is saying Indian bullfrog is considered an invasive species in Andaman and Nicobar. Yes. So that's the irony of a native species in India. It's now invasive species in Andaman. They're actually killing. They're feeding on a lot of other native species. Okay, now from question from Rowan, do we find purple frogs in Nilgiris, also Rutan, Batheri, and Wayanad? I think, yeah, there is a report of purple frogs in Wayanad and all. It's been, my friend had seen it there. It's the best way to see. Sometimes this purple frog is very difficult to find because the breeding is restricted for a few days. You will see sometimes a day or two, and after that they'll all disappear. So easy way to find out after the breeding, go to any waterfall around you and try to find out tadpoles. So most of these Nasica batrachus or the purple frog tadpoles will be sticking onto the waterfalls. So that's where we can actually locate these frogs. Okay, there's a tricky question from Swastik. Sir, Tigrinus and Crassus, how to differentiate? And why just taxonomic studies than ecological studies on frogs? Okay, Swastik, there is two questions. Why Tigrinus and Crassus, how to differentiate? It's very difficult to distinguish in the field unless, I mean, first of all, the size is a big difference. The Tigrinus, that is the Indian bullfrog, it's big in size, and Crassus, that is the Popliopetrachus crassa, that is the Jordan's bullfrog, is small in size. So the major thing, if you're out in the field, if it's breeding, you can actually make out their call. It's very different. Crassa, it actually sounds like a bellowing of a goat. So that's easy way to you can differentiate. And some of the tubercles on their back also, you can some minute difference, but it's difficult to distinguish. And why just taxonomic studies and ecology studies on frog? Okay, so in India, I mean, I'm not trying to blame anyone or something. The thing is, there's so many species need to be studied. So all these scientists, they want to do first of all find the frog where all it's found. So if you just look into the Nyctibatrachus or Micrysalas or Raworchesters, so first of all, the taxonomy is not yet clear. Probably Raworchesters is clear, almost clear now. So we know how many species are there. So unless you find a frog, is it very different from other frog? Is it endangered? Then only we can do conservation. And also the ecological study, the problem with ecological studies, like I'll tell you, the Nasica batrachus or the Mercurana, they'll come out a day or two and they disappear. So the timing is very important, and you need a lot of patience. Sometimes, I still remember we used to spend there were elephants there when we were studying all the frogs breeding behaviors and all. So there'll be a lot of leeches. A lot of people don't want to get into the evergreen forest and study. So yeah, I think we need a more ecological study. I'm sure a lot of frogs ecological studies will be amazing. Okay, Omkar, by any particular differentiation characters, Pseudomiletus and Raworchesters. Omkar, it's very difficult, but I would say the tympanum. Tympanum is very prominent in most of the Pseudophylaria. Raworchesters, the tympanum is not prominent. I think if Dr. Gudaji is there, we can put in some more. Frigidivarius is now completely in Minervarius. Okay, night trails are banned. So how do we get youngsters involved in motivation? So Clara is asking, night trails are banned. Okay, so the thing is now we want proper people who are very keen and with a proper permission to go out and study. We don't want random people going into the jungle, you know, in the sake of studying for photography, because there's not much benefit for the frogs or the habitat also. Unless your study and your expedition can benefit for the humans or the frog, then only you study. So I think if you apply for proper permissions and all, you will get the permission. Then you can study the frogs. Any books or website prefer to more about Western Ghats frog? There's one book is by Dr. Gururaja's book. Otherwise, there's not much. There's a Amphibian India website also there. You can identify quite a few frogs from there. Otherwise, not much. Is cannibalism observed in frogs? Yes, we've seen Indian bullfrog feeding on other frogs and all. What can everyone to do save frogs? Okay, Nikhil, it's a difficult question to answer, because now it's come to a stage. It's up to we have to pressure the government to protect the jungle ultimately. Like in what happened in Arunachal Pradesh, the entire forest is going to go. So all the amphibians are going, all other faunas are going to go. So it's not about some people go out and try to protect the small areas and try to protect. So the government has to take the initiatives. Like in Myristica swamps in Kerala, I mean, people can actually come around and make noise. I mean, they can do agitation, whatever it is. In Kerala, it happened. I mean, a lot of people they wanted to make a waste dumping yard next to a Myristica swamps. So the people all got together and made big noise. So now they stopped it. Like in Silent Valley thing happened. So people has to get out and talk. But until we know our frogs, what to survive, how to save, it's very difficult. We are still in a different thing. But I think if you can save a larger area of the forest, like if you can protect in a larger forest, don't let people come down and cut down forest, or how do you put it up? So it's up to the government. So, but we can put in our information. We have to pressurize the government to. They want to denotify a lot of areas. All those things should be stopped. And they want to cut down a lot of reeds. I mean, I remember when we submitted our report to in Delhiabari and all, we stopped all those reed cutting areas, and a lot of reed frogs we could save, because people used to cut the reeds for paper mills.
David, there is one more question, a few more questions. Do you believe, Nikhil here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you believe that there is lack of awareness?
Absolutely. See, most of the frogs, first of all, most of these frogs are found in our evergreen forests, and we don't know. And we don't know what are the normal species found in our place. Like the bullfrog I mentioned, people are eating all these frogs, and you don't know their breeding behavior. So awareness, once you start telling the people, okay, the bullfrog, it's probably the first one is going to extinct from India. But the knowledge is not there. We don't have enough materials to talk to our kids or our students. So once you bring out the awareness, then only we can actually give more education.
And what can be the reason, do you believe, that the awareness is not at the stage, imagining that there are over 30 years, there are plenty of NGOs trying to do education and awareness, and still not able to come up with a certain thing. Of course, there's a large population we are looking after, but still there are things which are not up to the mark, which I believe, at least. What is your opinion?
I mean, if you're concerned about the frogs, see, most of whatever the frogs I mentioned, it's actually restricted to most of this forested region. So let me take an example. There's a place called Gabi in in Idukki region. There is a frog also. It's called the Ravorchessus travancoricus. So that frog is actually found in grasslands, and there's tourism is big. people are burning the grassland down. There's big construction is coming up. So that's actually an endangered species. The moment, I mean, nobody knows actually, and even the amphibian scientists also, they are not putting up enough data there. They have to publish their things saying that, unlike the publishing species, these are the species is going to extinct. If you do all this kind of work there, if you cut down the grassland, if you do construction work in that area, so that species is going to go. So they don't know that, they don't have the data out there. So my suggestion would be, unless you publish all those things into the people there, then only they'll get to know. So the data is missing. Most of the studies, I mean, you also look into frogs, Nikhil. So we don't know how many frogs are still found. Many are being described. So unless you pump in all those data, you don't know where to start.
So, as you give example of pesticides being used and how they are harmful to frogs, there are a lot of other examples where pesticides is being used and it is harmful for mammals even. There is example of jackals which are gone from one certain area, I know, due to pesticides. And so if the pesticides are so much, if we are talking about awareness, and there are a lot of people. So there are, of course, certain people are focused for research, certain people are focused for ecology or taxonomy, certain people are for awareness. So there are people, different groups, and there are many people into this field. But when we are talking about pesticides, if we all know that it is harmful for all kinds of flora fauna we have, isn't it the time that we should join hands with them too? I mean, we are not doing anything about it. We are just focusing on the saving habitats or talking about the species or some similar way.
Absolutely, I'll agree with you, but there's a few problem with it, Nikhil. So first of all, most of this pesticide being pumped in most of large tea and coffee plantation. So which is lot of laborers are also involved in this. So unless you give an alternative, those people, I mean, to them, I mean, if you want to stop the pesticide, you need to give an alternative. So we can actually say that, okay, these are because of this, the frogs are going, other animals are also giving, because that's their bread and butter. I don't know how to deal with it. It's actually a very difficult situation. Unless you give an alternative thing instead of this pesticide, they need to bring out all the crops also. So suppose if you say, okay, farmers are using a lot of pesticide to bring out all these brinjals or all onions and all. So, but you have to give an alternative. You can't just randomly go and say, okay, you stop that, because we have to eat. People, they have to feed people also. So I don't know. It's difficult. Do you have an answer for this? It's a difficult question.
Of course, it is difficult to answer these things. But I believe that everything is connected, and if we are talking that environment is connected, we should all join together, because we specialize into one thing and we forgot about other things, and we don't actually try to connect things together.
David,
Yes. Yeah, Rohit.
I have an answer for this.
Okay. Yeah, let him speak, because he's from a tea plantation and all that.
Okay.
No, I think, I think what needs to be done is we need to reduce our population. There's too much of pressure on resources. So once your population comes down, the demand to produce that much from that much of land, there's no pressure on it. And you can return more land to forest and preserve eco-sensitive areas. Today, people are going into every nook and corner and trying to grow stuff or manufacture stuff. So I think one of the biggest challenges is to bring down our population. The population of our country should be brought down to at least 50%. And then you can talk about conservation working and lasting in the long term.
True. Population is the biggest problem, no doubt.
Yeah, I think. Okay, also Clara had to put up something. My personal take is create generation who are awareness rather than wait for serious students or researchers. Absolutely. Change the mindset and create awareness for the next generation. Yeah. So I mean, that's what we are trying to do. Wherever we go, we try to talk to the local people and try to talk to the students wherever in the schools and try to put in some kind of information to their mind. Okay, all these things need to be safe. So like we are studying the purple frog and all. So, I mean, people know that they've been eating there for hundreds of years. We told them this is very endangered frog. I mean, but yeah, they have different names for male and female frogs. Can you believe it? Purple frog, male has one name, female have another name. So yeah, unless you pump in those information to the local people, it's easy. Otherwise, it's tough.
Unmuted.
I guess you have answered most of the questions, David.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. I had put up a question. I don't think it reached. The metamorphosis from embryo directly onto the adult, which you mentioned for bush frogs, is it specific to certain species of bush frogs or all bush frogs?
All bush frogs, all the Raworchestes and Pseudophylatus, they have a direct breeding cycle.
Okay,
All bush
thanks.
frogs. Sorry.
Thanks.
Any more questions? No, I guess. So thank you, David, for sharing this information about frogs of Southern Western Ghat with us. I thank you on behalf of Greenworks Trust for this lovely session, and I hope everyone must have enjoyed the session. We wish to bring more such informative sessions for you with various topics. So I request everyone to make a small donation to our organization and support our nature education and awareness initiative. I will share the details on our WhatsApp group. Once again, I thank everyone for joining this session. Have a good day to all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.